The hotel manager looked at the woman standing in front of his desk, took in her faded cotton wrapper skirt, her worn leather sandals, her single small bag, and said, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear, "Ma'am, this is a 5-star property. I think you may be looking for something more in your budget." He said it the way people say things they know are wrong, but have practiced saying so many times they no longer feel the wrongness. Smooth, professional, final. The woman didn't move. Her name was Chidinma Osei. She was 31 years old. She had taken 3 buses from the airport. She had a reservation confirmation, printed on a piece of paper she had folded and unfolded so many times the creases had gone soft. She held it out across the marble counter. The manager, whose name badge read Direct Guest Experience Director, glanced at it, the way you glance at something you've already decided doesn't matter. "I'm going to need a credit card for incidentals, ma'am." A physical card, not a screenshot, not a printout. "I have a debit card. We don't accept debit at check-in. Your website says, our policy changed." He said it without blinking. "If you'd like, there's a Holiday Inn about 4 miles down on Peachtree. They're very accommodating." She stood at that marble counter for another 30 seconds, not because she didn't understand what was happening. She understood exactly what was happening. She stood there because she had come a long way, because her feet hurt, because she had not eaten since the plane, and because she was trying to decide whether the version of herself her mother raised was going to let this be the end of the story. She decided it wasn't. She turned from the desk and sat down in one of the low cream-colored chairs near the window. She placed her bag on her lap. She took out her phone, and then she made a call. If you have ever watched someone who has been dismissed, discarded, and talked down to be given exactly what they deserved, stay with me, because what is about to happen in this lobby will take your breath away. Hit subscribe right now, turn on notifications, and do not go anywhere. Because this is the story of a woman in a cotton skirt who sat down in a lobby she built and waited for the truth to catch up with the man who thought he could decide her worth in 3 seconds. Now let me take you back to where it started. Chidinma Osei was born in Accra, Ghana, in 1993, the second of 4 children. Her father, Emmanuel, drove a taxi. Her mother, Abena, sold fabric from a stall at Makola Market 6 days a week, 48 weeks a year, for 22 years. The stall was 8 feet wide and smelled of new cotton and the shea butter Abena rubbed into her hands each morning before she spread her bolts of cloth. Chidinma grew up behind that stall. She did her homework sitting on a wooden crate with a textbook balanced on her knees. She learned to count change before she learned multiplication tables at school, because at the market the math had to be right every time. You couldn't owe a customer. You couldn't be owed. The numbers had to be honest because the money they made was what fed 4 children and paid school fees and kept the lights on. She was good at math. Better than good. Her teachers said so. Her mother said so too, quietly, the way Abena said most important things, without drama, without ceremony, just a fact placed into the air like a stone set down on a table. "Chidinma, you have a head for numbers. Use it." She used it. She won a scholarship to the University of Ghana at 18. She studied economics and finance. She graduated with first-class honors. She won a second scholarship, a graduate fellowship, to the Goizueta Business School at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. She packed 1 bag. She said goodbye to her mother at Kotoka International Airport. Abena held her face in both hands and looked at her for a long time without speaking. Then she said, in Twi, "The child who ties their wrapper tight has room to run." Chidinma tied her wrapper tight. She spent 4 years in Atlanta getting her MBA. She waitressed on weekends. She tutored undergraduates on weeknights. She slept 6 hours when she could, 5 hours when she couldn't, in a studio apartment in Decatur with one window and a radiator that knocked. After she graduated, she did not go back to Ghana. Not yet. She got a job at a boutique investment firm in Midtown. She worked, she learned, she saved. She watched how money moved and where it went and why, and she took notes, not on paper, but in the part of her brain where the most important things lived. At 26, she invested her savings in a small guest house in Accra with her cousin. At 27, she bought him out and ran it herself from Atlanta through phone calls and spreadsheets and a property manager named Essie, who Chidinma trusted because Essie had worked for Abena at the market stall for 6 years and had never once given wrong change. At 29, she turned the guest house into a boutique hotel, 14 rooms, air conditioning, a restaurant that served jollof and fresh tilapia and kelawel on weekend mornings. It was not a luxury property, but it was clean and warm, and the beds were good, and the staff knew every guest's name by the second morning. At 30, she was approached by a developer named Marcus Webb. Marcus Webb ran Weston Hospitality Group, a mid-size hotel company based in Atlanta with 11 properties across the Southeast. He had seen her numbers. He had read a piece about her in a business journal. He wanted to meet. They met at a restaurant in Midtown. He was 54, silver-haired, easy smile, the kind of man who had made enough money that he no longer needed to try hard at anything. He ordered a scotch and leaned back in his chair and told her he liked what she had built in Accra. "It's small," she said. "It's profitable. That's rarer." He offered her a partnership. Not a job, not a consulting role, a partnership. 12% equity in a new property, the Ashton Atlanta, a 4-star boutique hotel he was developing in Buckhead. In exchange, she would run the operational side for the first 3 years, hire staff, train management, build the culture from the ground up. She said she needed 2 weeks to think. She thought for 2 weeks. She ran the numbers 6 different ways. She called her mother. "Mama, a man wants to give me 12% of a hotel. What does he want in return?" "My work. 3 years of it." Abena was quiet for a moment. "And is he the kind of man who keeps his word?" "I think so." "Then tie your wrapper tight." She signed the papers at 31. She spent the next year hiring the staff of the Ashton Atlanta. She interviewed front desk agents and housekeepers and sous chefs and maintenance workers. She hired Derek Nolan as guest experience director because he had 12 years in luxury hospitality, because his references were excellent, because he presented beautifully in the interview, and because she had not yet learned that the gap between how a person presents in an interview and who they actually are when they think no one important is watching can be very, very wide. The hotel opened in March. It was beautiful. Marble floors, high ceilings, plants in the lobby the size of small trees, a restaurant on the second floor with floor-to-ceiling windows, and a menu by a Ghanaian-American chef named Felix, who had trained at Le Cordon Bleu and cooked jollof rice with truffle oil and called it Heritage Fusion and charged $40 a plate, and people paid it gladly. The reviews were good. Then they were great. By the 8th month, occupancy was at 78%. Marcus Webb called to say she had done what he had hoped. She thanked him. She went back to work. She had been at a conference in Nashville for 3 days when she flew back to Atlanta on a Thursday afternoon. The conference had run long. She had missed her original flight. She had not eaten since a granola bar at the Nashville airport at noon. She had rescheduled her check-in. She had a confirmation number. She had her reservation. She had not brought her credit card. She had her debit card and a copy of her reservation, and the expectation, reasonable and documented, that she was checking into a hotel where she was, by every legal and financial measure, a co-owner. She did not tell Derek this when she walked up to the desk. She wanted to see what happened when she was just a woman in a cotton wrapper skirt, with a small bag and a piece of paper. She found out. Now she was sitting in a cream-colored chair near the window, with her phone in her hand and Derek behind his marble counter, helping a couple with matching luggage and easy smiles and a platinum Amex. And the lobby was moving around her the way lobbies do, warm and smooth and indifferent. She called Marcus Webb. He picked up on the second ring. Chidinma, how was Nashville? It was good. Marcus, I'm sitting in the lobby of our hotel right now. I just tried to check in. Your guest experience director told me to try the Holiday Inn on Peachtree. A pause. The kind of pause that is not confusion. The kind that is understanding arriving at speed. Say that again. I have a reservation. I showed him the confirmation. He told me we don't accept debit for incidentals and suggested I find something more in my budget. Another pause. Shorter this time. I'm 20 minutes away. Don't move. She didn't move. She sat in the cream-colored chair and watched the lobby. A young woman in a black vest was folding napkins near the restaurant entrance, her movements quick and practiced. A bellman was loading luggage onto a cart, whistling something low under his breath. The plants were well watered. The floors were clean. The lights were warm. She had chosen those lights. She had spent 3 weeks with the interior designer arguing about the color temperature of the lobby lighting because she believed that the quality of light in a lobby told whether they were welcome before a single word was spoken. Warm light says, "You are home." Cold light says, "This is a transaction." She had chosen warm. The young woman folding napkins looked over. She was maybe 22, brown-skinned, natural hair pinned up, the kind of face that is trying hard not to show that it has been trying hard for a long time. Her name tag read Imani. Imani had seen what happened at the front desk. She had been 12 feet away, folding napkins, and she had heard every word. Her jaw had been tight since. She had been deciding what to do with her hands, because what she wanted to do with them was not professional. She walked to the cream-colored chair. "Ma'am, can I bring you something? Water, or water would be wonderful. Thank you. Are you waiting for someone?" "Just waiting." Imani nodded. She went and came back with a glass of water with a slice of lemon. She set it on the small table beside the chair. "I heard what he said to you," Imani said quietly. She did not look toward the front desk when she said it. "I'm sorry." Chidinma looked at her. "How long have you been here?" 7 months. Do you like it?" Imani thought about it honestly. "I like the work. I like talking to people. I like when a guest has a hard day, and you can make it a little better." She paused. "I don't always like how certain people decide who gets the good version of that." Chidinma said nothing. She looked at the lobby. Then she said, "What do you want to be doing in 5 years?" Imani looked slightly surprised. "Hospitality management. I'm doing my coursework, online, nights and weekends. I want to run a property someday." Chidinma nodded slowly. "Remember that," she said. "That wanting." Imani looked at her for a moment, uncertain what to do with that. Then she said, "Let me know if you need anything else," and went back to her napkins. Marcus Webb arrived in 19 minutes. He was wearing a jacket over a polo shirt, and he walked through the lobby doors the way a man walks when he is moving fast but does not want it to show. He saw Chidinma in the chair by the window. He crossed the lobby to her. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine, a little hungry." He straightened. He turned. Derek was behind the front desk, helping a guest with a room key. Marcus walked to the desk. Derek looked up with his professional smile, the one that cost nothing and meant less. "Mr. Webb." "Good evening, sir. Can I help you with something?" "The woman sitting by the window," Marcus said. "What happened when she came in?" Derek's smile held. "She came in without a credit card for incidentals. I explained our policy and suggested some alternatives in the area." "What alternatives?" the Holiday Inn on Peachtree. You told a guest to go to another hotel. I told her about her options. She didn't have, do you know who she is? Derek's smile adjusted slightly, the smile of a man recalibrating. A guest? Her name is Chidinma Osei. She is the operational partner and 12% equity owner of this property. She hired you. She built the team that trained you. The guest experience standards you operate under were written by her. The lighting in this lobby was chosen by her. The plants behind your left shoulder were specified by her. Marcus paused. She was sitting in that chair for 40 minutes in a hotel she owns, and you sent her to the Holiday Inn. The lobby had gone quiet. The couple with the matching luggage had stopped talking. The bellman had stopped whistling. Imani had stopped folding napkins. Derek's smile was gone now. In its place was the face of a man watching the floor become suddenly uncertain beneath him. I didn't know, he said. She didn't say. Come with me. They walked to the chair by the window. Chidinma stood as they approached, not because she had to, but because she had been raised to stand when something important was about to happen. Derek stood in front of her. He was 6 feet tall. She was 5'4". He had 12 years in luxury hospitality. She had built a hotel from a guest house in Accra. They looked at each other. Mrs. Osei, Derek said. I owe you an apology. Yes, she said, you do. I made assumptions about who you were, about what you could afford, about whether you belonged here. He stopped. The professional composure was gone, and what was underneath it was something closer to human. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Chidinma looked at him for a long moment. The room waited. I know you're sorry, she said. But I want you to understand something. I'm not upset because of who I am. I don't need you to apologize to the co-owner. I need you to understand what you said to a tired woman who had been traveling all day, who had a valid reservation, who did nothing wrong, and who you decided in 3 seconds wasn't worth your full service. That woman deserved better. Not because of her equity stake, because she was standing in front of you and asking for help. Derek said nothing. There was nothing to say. Chidinma turned to Marcus. He keeps his job. Marcus looked at her. Chidinma, he keeps his job, but he's going to do something for me. She looked at Derek. For the next 60 days, every shift you work, you will greet every single guest, regardless of what they're wearing, regardless of what card they carry, regardless of how they arrived here, with the same standard. The full standard. Not the adjusted version you were running today. She held his gaze. And on your next day off, I want you to spend 4 hours at the extended stay on Memorial Drive. Not as a guest, as a volunteer. They serve travelers who don't have another option, people who took 3 buses to get there, people who don't have an Amex. I want you to see who they are. She looked at him steadily. Because right now, in your mind, they're different from the guests you think belong here. They're not. The only difference is circumstance. And circumstance can change in a single afternoon. Derek nodded. His throat moved. Yes, ma'am. The room breathed. It was Imani who moved first. She set down the chapkin she had been holding for the last 10 minutes and walked over. She stopped a few feet away, uncertain whether she was supposed to be part of this moment. Chidinma saw her. Come here. Imani came. You brought me water. Yes, ma'am. Nobody told you to. No, ma'am. Derek told you to leave guests to the front desk team. Imani glanced at Derek. He said that during orientation, yes, and you still brought me water. You looked tired, and nobody else was doing anything. She said it simply, not to score a point, just because it was true. Chidinma smiled. It was a real smile, the kind that starts slow and means something. What did you say your goal was? To run a property someday. Chidinma looked at Marcus. Did you bring your notebook? Marcus, who had worked with Chidinma for a year and knew exactly what this meant, reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. Go ahead, Imani. Chidinma turned back to her. What's your last name? Asare. Imani Asare. Imani Asare. The O.C. Webb Foundation sponsors 4 hospitality management scholarships a year. We cover tuition, books, and a paid internship at one of our partner properties. We specifically look for people who understand that hospitality is not about what a guest is wearing. It's about what they need. Imani's hand came up to her mouth. If you'd like to apply, Marcus will send you the information by tomorrow morning. Chidinma paused. But I will tell you something now. What you did today, walking over to a woman who had been turned away and asking if she needed water, that is not a small thing. Most people sit still when they see something wrong happen. You got up. That kind of person is who we're trying to build this industry around. Imani was crying quietly, the professional trying not to kind. Don't cry at the desk, Chidinma said gently. They frown on that here. She said it with warmth, and Imani laughed through it, and the lobby felt like somewhere humans were again. Marcus arranged a suite. He walked Chidinma to the elevator himself. In the elevator, he said, "You could have fired him. I know. He embarrassed you. In your own lobby. He did." The elevator doors closed. "But if I fire him, he goes home and builds a story where I'm the villain, where I got him fired for doing his job. He spends the next 5 years angrier and more certain he was right." She looked at the numbers climbing. "I'd rather he spend 60 days learning the names of people he never looked at before. That's harder, and it sticks." The elevator opened on the 14th floor. The hallway was quiet and warm, and the carpet was the color she had chosen, a deep terracotta that reminded her of the earth outside Accra in the early morning. Marcus said, "I'll have room service sent up, Jollof," she said. "Tell Felix, he'll know how I like it." She walked to the suite at the end of the hall. She set her bag down. She sat on the edge of the bed for a moment in her cotton wrapper skirt and her worn leather sandals, and she closed her eyes. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother in Accra, unprompted, the way Abana's texts always were, arriving exactly when they were needed and asking no explanation. "How are you, my daughter? Did you eat?" She typed back, "Just arrived. Eating soon. I'm well, Mama. 3 dots. Then, good. Don't forget to drink water. And don't let anyone tell you what room you belong in." Chidinma stared at the screen for a long time. Her mother was 61 years old. She had sold fabric at Makola Market for 22 years. She had sent a daughter to university on 6 days a week and 48 weeks a year. And the kind of belief that doesn't announce itself, it just keeps working. She had never been to Atlanta. She did not know the name of the hotel, or the square footage of the suite, or the price per night. But she knew her daughter, and she knew that the rooms that matter are not the ones with marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows. The rooms that matter are the ones you build, slowly, with your hands, from the money you earned counting change behind a fabric stall, from the scholarships you won by staying up past midnight, from the handshakes and the spreadsheets and the years of work nobody saw before anyone offered you a seat at the table. Chidinma put her phone down. She looked at the room around her. The warm light, the terracotta carpet, the plants she had specified, small here, a single fiddle-leaf fig in the corner, its leaves wide and dark, and reaching upward. She had chosen that too. Room service arrived 35 minutes later. Felix had sent the jollof with fried plantains and a small dish of shito on the side and a handwritten note on hotel stationery that read, "Welcome home, Ms. Osei. Felix." She ate slowly. She drank water. She let her feet rest. Downstairs, in the lobby, Derek Nolan was finishing his shift. Before he clocked out, he stood for a moment at the front desk and looked at the lobby. The warm light, the plants, the terracotta-toned accents on the pillars. He had worked here for 11 months, and he had never thought about who had chosen any of it. He thought about it now. He left through the staff exit, walked to his car, and sat in the parking deck for a while without starting the engine. He was not a bad man. He had told himself for 12 years in luxury hospitality that he was simply maintaining standards, that he was protecting the experience for the guests who expected it, that the shortcuts he took in assessing people were efficiency, not judgment. He sat in his car and tried to hold on to that story. It was harder than it had been this morning. Amani Asare took the train home at 11 p.m. She sat in the mostly empty car and looked at the message Marcus Webb had sent, as promised, the scholarship information, the application link, the deadline, and a single line at the bottom that said, "Miss Osi asked me to pass this along." She said the deadline is flexible for the right person. Amani read it 3 times. Then she opened her laptop on the train and started the application. She filled in her name, her school, her years of experience. She got to the essay question, which asked, "Describe a moment that clarified for you what hospitality means." She sat with it for a moment. The train moved through the dark. The city lights passed in the windows. Then she began to type, "Tonight, I brought a glass of water to a woman who had been turned away at the front desk of my hotel. I didn't know who she was. I just knew she was tired and nobody was helping her, and that wasn't right. She thanked me and asked what I wanted to do with my life. I told her. She listened like it was the most important thing she had heard all day. I have worked in hospitality for 7 months. I have watched a lot of guests arrive. I have seen how different people get treated based on what they're wearing or what card they carry. And I have decided that the version of this industry I want to build is the one where none of that is the point. The point is the person standing in front of you. That's it. That's the whole job." She submitted the application before her stop. And that is the story of a cotton wrapper skirt, a glass of water, and a lobby full of warm light chosen by the woman everyone in it had already decided didn't belong there. They looked at her sandals and saw someone who couldn't afford the room. They looked at her bag and saw someone who had the wrong address. They looked at her and ran a calculation in 3 seconds that took everything visible and missed everything that mattered. But the woman in the cream-colored chair had sold fabric behind her mother's stall and won scholarships and crossed an ocean and built a guest house into a boutique hotel and signed a partnership that put her name on the deed of the building she was being turned away from. And when she had every right to use that name to end a career, she chose instead to use it to open a door. Because that is what her mother taught her. That is what the fabric stall taught her. That is what 7 years of getting up before anyone was watching and working after everyone else had gone home taught her. Power is not the room you walk into. Power is what you build for the people who come after you. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is sit down in a cream-colored chair, drink a glass of water that a kind young woman brought you, and wait for the truth to arrive on its own. Because it always does. Because every story has a lesson, and contemporary African folktales never forgets.